everyone. Welcome once again to a new edition of our Open Innovation Thursdays. My name is Marisol Menendez, and I'm an open innovation practitioner and enthusiast. I dedicate my life to work with different companies and ecosystems around open innovation and ecosystem orchestration through my company Vilacatu, based in Bilbao. Although today I'm connecting from Madrid. And I work also with several ecosystems, such as the WIF ecosystem and an ecosystem of women, executive women around the world. And so you can understand that it's a true privilege for me to have the opportunity every week to speak with each of the authors of the chapters of the Oxford Handbook of Open Innovation. I've been enjoying myself a lot. And today we are talking about chapter 34 already, chapter 34. But for that, we will talk more about the chapter later on. First, I always like to welcome our amazing guest. Today, we are welcoming Gabriel Cavalli. Gabriel, how are you? Welcome. Thank you very much for connecting today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure, really.
Gabriel, well, I say Gabriel in Spanish, we say Gabriel in English. Can you please introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit more about you. Where are you connecting from?
So I'm connecting from Toronto, and I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Toronto, Rotman School of Management. And my research really is about how the processes of scientific knowledge production are changing organizationally, technologically, globally. And I look at how different actors in ecosystems are affecting the production of scientific knowledge. I look at how AI advances introduced by Google are affecting how innovation and science is being produced. I look also at how the introduction of patent systems affect the production of innovation and scientific knowledge. So I've been doing innovation my whole life, and my doctoral thesis reflects that.
That's so interesting. And we have had topics, by the way, but the past chapter was about deep tech, big science, and open innovation. And we also have a chapter related to open innovation and artificial intelligence. So these are topics of great interest for everyone. And so it's very exciting to know that you're working around this. And today we're talking about open chapter number 34. As I say, I'm very excited because first of all, this is the last chapter of section 6, which is new developments in open innovation. And it's chapter 34, as I was saying, it's open innovation to address grand challenges. You co-wrote this together with Anita McGahan, amazing Anita. But I don't know if you can tell us first a little bit about Anita, so those who don't know her can learn a little bit more about her. And later, how come you decided together to write this chapter and why this topic?
Yeah, so Anita is my doctoral supervisor. She has shared with me an infinite amount of knowledge throughout these years, and I will always be grateful to her. Her research interests, I mean, she has worked on everything. It's impressive what she has done throughout her career. Now she's involved in the new theory, the new stakeholder theory about how stakeholders can be involved to produce outcomes that can be societally beneficial. And so, yeah, about the writing of this chapter, really, it was about merging our interests, about how we can leverage innovation and specifically the breakthroughs, the methodologies, the tools introduced by the open innovation movement for producing outcomes that can be beneficial at the societal level in order to tackle the grand challenges that are characterizing the 21st century.
I'm so excited about this chapter. By the way, I saw Anita McGahan speak in one of our World Open Innovation conferences about the topic of grand challenges. And I get the feeling, well, first, my next question is, please tell us what this chapter is about. So can you give us a general overview? What are you talking about in this chapter?
So essentially, what we are trying to do here is to develop a framework to understand and to, let's say, organize all the methodologies, the tools that were developed by the open innovation movement, and to see how they can be used and leveraged to tackle the grand challenges that we are facing every day. Grand challenges are those global issues like climate change, systemic inequalities that are affecting our everyday lives. And so we depart from the fact that these grand challenges now are need to be faced and tackled. And we also look at these grand challenges under the light of the Sustainable Development Goals, which are the goals that were set by the United Nations in 2015. These are 17 goals, like reducing poverty, reducing pollution at the global level. And we're trying to understand how the open innovation literature has evolved throughout these last 3 or 4 decades, and how it can be used to tackle these grand challenges. And essentially, it's about the history of the open innovation movement. And we try to outline the advances in the literature. We try to map the evolution of the literature. We try to identify future directions and also to derive implications for policymakers about how to apply open innovation for tackling these grand challenges.
Wow, this is so interesting and so relevant for many action lines nowadays. And we've been discussing about this a lot. First of all, because in the very definition of open innovation, we have these knowledge flows across organizational boundaries to create value. Also, even in the SDGs, in the global sustainable goals that you were talking about, the goal number 17 is partnership for the goals. And
Yeah.
my own interpretation is like saying that goal 17 is open innovation, getting collaboration to work for these grand challenges. And we realize that grand challenges that sometimes are also called wicked problems, those problems which by definition cannot be solved by an individual organization or person. So that also has collaboration in its own definition. And so I think it's very critical that we learn as society how to coordinate to really activate this value capturing towards the problem solving. So I think this is very core. This chapter is very, very important. And so I'm very curious, what have you learned in the development of this chapter?
Wow, that's an interesting question. Certainly that partnerships are necessary. In the sense that, in general, we think about the solution to these problems as being mainly technological, for instance. Like we create technologies that are going to solve these wicked problems. But actually, many times, the systems of production, the technologies themselves have contributed to create these problems in first instance. And so by creating partnerships between actors with different perspectives, resources that tackle problems through different angles is fundamental. And the open innovation movement and frameworks and methodologies really provide the necessary tools for, let's say, tackling these problems through a fresher approach that can also be more impactful and effective. Then I also personally think that we think about these solutions solutions that can be solved in an objective manner, like there is a parameter that can be optimized, companies that have to maximize profit, that there is the best way to solve a problem. But actually, through the open innovation lens, actually, there are different ways to achieve the same solution, let's say, different solutions to the same problem. And so this diversity in perspectives, in approaches to the same problem can bring richness to the different approaches that can be used to tackle the same problem. So yeah, it's about the richness also of the, let's say, of the approaches that the open innovation lens can bring to these weak problems.
So interesting. And so you said that you were reviewing literature as well during this chapter.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can also maybe give us some hints about what strengths do we have so far in the research and what are the research opportunities in the future?
Okay, so the strengths, so the open innovation movement so far has focused on six main points. It started by looking at how let's say the public sector, sorry, the fact that the private sector had to collaborate with external innovators in order to cope with the lack of ideas within the boundaries of the organization. It evolved to examine the collaboration and the partnership between the public sector and the private sector. It has considered also the corporate social responsibility efforts by companies, and it also considered public sector initiatives and approaches to innovation through mission-driven approaches, like, for instance, NASA setting very broad and ambitious objectives for solving some technological problems. Then it evolved to consider also the alliances, the networks, the licensing agreements between firms and other actors like suppliers, partners, customers. And now it's one of the main focuses of the open innovation literature is about the platforms and other barrier-breaking technologies and the impact of these barrier-breaking technologies in the efforts to create open innovation initiatives. So one of the strengths of this literature is that, and this approach more in general, is its ability to encompass the study of multiple actors and its ability to extend towards including more and more actors into the analysis of the solutions that are created through the open innovation lens. About the opportunities, really, I think it's about essentially studying new dependent variables. The literature has generally focused on which are the firms that are best suited to perform better, which are the organizations that are more likely to succeed over the long run. While instead here we have the opportunity to move beyond that optimization of objective parameters, and we actually have the opportunity to study how production and innovation can actually serve human needs. And this is really the idea that drove Anita and I to write this chapter. It's about really studying how we can leverage the open innovation tools to really fully unlock human potential and create a wealth and yeah, positive outcomes for humans more in general beyond profit or better performance company wise.
I like a lot that we bring forward the human dimension for this because we tend to think that innovation is technology, as you were saying
Yeah.
in the beginning. And I am getting to the conclusion that in reality it's more a humanistic activity than technological. Well, everything gets to an end and we are getting closer to finalizing our session today. So um, maybe I would like to ask you for a conclusion. Maybe if you have any insight for practitioners or any takeout that you want people to have in their hearts after reading the chapter, any call to action?
Yes, so maybe one insight is that uh, generally when we think about firms, companies, and the relationships that these companies have, we think about the customers, we think about suppliers, we think about how to interact also with the public sector. But actually, there is a whole different and let's say there are more stakeholders that are at play when a firm operates within a geography, within a society. There are the universities, there are local communities, there are advocacy organizations, there are citizens who are affected by the actions of the company. So taking them also into account can bring new ideas and new perspectives on how to produce innovation within a company, which is not necessarily just technological, or even when it is technological, it can benefit from the points of view of these actors that are not generally taken into account.
So interesting, Gabriel. Well, I think that we are clear about the invitation now. We have this global vision of working towards humanity via open innovation dynamics, to bring and capture this value of innovation and transformation for improvement of our own world. And I think we have many interesting insights to connect with the chapter and to keep reading. We invite our listeners and our viewers to get into the chapter and read it, because as you can see, it's very interesting. Any final thought before we say goodbye?
Yes.
Do you have any final word? Yeah.
No, I mean it was a very interesting project. It broadened my perspective. I tend to be very technological, very nerdy. No, it's important to think about the humanistic aspect of innovation. As I've come to believe and think that innovation is more a social phenomenon than a technological phenomenon, and we have to remind ourselves of that.
That's the perfect closure for a perfect Thursday, Open Innovation Thursday. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for connecting.
Thank you.
Please give our regards to Anita as well. And
Absolutely.
well, thank you everyone who are listening or viewing this video, and see you next week in a new chapter of Open Innovation Thursday. Thank you very much.
Thank you.